Alright, today we're going to learn how to study for my class. And I like to call these drill cards. They call them flash cards. I call them drill because you're going to drill with them, drill with them, drill with them. And we're going to go over taking the PowerPoint, which is your notes. So you use your notes. I'm going to put the PowerPoint up here. And we're going to go over how do I take notes, or from my notes, how do I make study cards. And this method works in any subject. So it's not just for my class. And it works all the way through college. I've had lots of students come back and tell me that this method was one of the best things that they learned because they've used it all the way through college. So this will help you if you do it the way that I ask you to do it. Okay? Now, those of you that still have the Quizlet, I want you to write down just a few directions on how to use this so that you'll have the directions with you. So somewhere on a piece of paper, or you can use the note-taking on your device, but somewhere write down how to do this method, how to use this method, because if you're like me, I hear it one time, it's not going to stick. I need to go back and look, and especially now the older I get, it sticks less, and I have to write myself notes about everything. So the first thing I want to say is, and I want you to write down, is when do I make these study cards? The best way is the day you take the notes. You got that down? Okay.
We did this and this, and it's like kind of it's like and so it comes up to my account.
Okay, but do you have that you're supposed to do this the day that you take the notes? This is how to use it. See, that's why I'm giving you this. There's a certain technique to use. This technique works. I've been teaching for 37 and a half years. And I know it works. So you're going to try. Now, if you can't do it because maybe it was like Wednesday night and you already had enough homework and you had church and all that, then at least do it the next day. But preferably, make the cards the day you take the notes. Not in place of the notes, but the day you take the notes. Because every time you're writing it down, you're reinforcing it in your head. Another point. Only put one question per card. Don't try, like if you're using 3x5 cards, don't try to save cards by putting 3 questions on the card. No. If you want to save cards, cut the cards in half, cut the cards in fourths. I don't care. But don't put 2 or 3 questions or more on the card. Now, you don't realize this, but your brain will automatically be memorizing those 3 answers together. And on the test, those 3 questions may be scattered and way somewhere else. And so subconsciously, you're memorizing them together as a set. And we don't want you to memorize them together as a set. So that's why 1 question per card. Now, if I'm actually using 3x5 cards, I like, let's say, it's not going to write for me. Let's try it over here. I like to do this. C0L1. I like to put, and of course if you're doing it with the app or with the Quizlet, then you can title it C0L1. So you'll know which cards go together for which quiz. And then question on the front, answer on the back. So the question goes on the front, the answer goes on the back. Now the neat thing about Quizlet is you can turn your cards around and even do it the other way if you want to. And of course, if you have it on 3x5 cards, you can do that as well. Now, how to use the cards. Okay, let me tell you about definitions in my class. In my class, when I expect you to know a definition, I will not have you write out the definition. You will have to give me the term. So write that down. So what's going to go on the front of your card? The definition. What's going to be the answer on the back of your card? The term. Now, all classes don't do that. And so if you have a different class where it may be either way, I make two different cards unless I'm using Quizlet and can turn them around. I would make one card with the definition on the front, answer on the back, and a separate card with the term on the front and the definition on the back. But in my class, unless I tell you otherwise, it's always going to be, I give you the definition, you give me the term. Okay, let me tell you about listing questions. So write this down about listing questions. With listing questions, you have to get the whole list correct in order to say you've got that card correct. You have to have the whole list. So if there's 5 in the list and you get 4 out of the 5, it's wrong. If there's 10 in the list and you get 9 out of the 10, it's wrong. So in order to get that card right, you have to get the whole list. All of the list. So we're making these cards tonight, and then when you're going to start drilling with them. You can drill with them anytime. Say you have a long commute to school. Be drilling with your cards. Let's say you have some extra time in class. Be drilling with your cards. And what I want you to do is first take your cards, and Quizlet will do this, shuffle them. So I want you to shuffle the cards. Mix them up. The reason you need to mix them up every time is so that they're constantly in a different order. As I said, you don't want to have something in the same order. This is why, for my class, people are used to studying from their notes and just going down and memorizing and saying the page and then, oh, I've got that page, and flip over. That usually does not work in my class. You use that method and it will probably, for most of you, not work. Because you are subconsciously memorizing it as a group. And I'm going to have it all mixed up. So you want to shuffle every time you go through the cards. And I think there is a button on Quizlet where you can say reshuffle. So that's important. Next, you're going to go through your cards. And unfortunately, you can't do this on Quizlet. You're going to read the question. You're going to answer it. Look at it. See if you get it answered properly. If you get the whole thing right, you're going to put your cards in a stack on the right. So right cards, right answers go on the right. When you get it wrong or part of it wrong, you're going to put a stack on the left. So as you drill through them, as you go through the cards, right ones, the ones you get right, go on the right in a stack. The ones you get wrong, go on the left. Then, you've gone through the whole stack, and you've got 2 stacks now. You've got some on the right and some on the left. You're going to pick up the ones on the left, and you're going to mix them. Remember, shuffle every time. So you're going to mix your cards up, shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. Then you're going to do the same thing. You're going to go through it. If you get it all right, on the right. If you get any part of it wrong, on the left. And that's one thing that's better about the drill cards is I don't want you to keep focusing on the stuff you already know. I want you to keep going over and repeating the things you're not getting right so that eventually you can go through the whole stack and you can have them all on the right. And then mix them up, go through the whole thing, you got them on the right. If you miss any, you do the same procedure over and over again till you can be going through the whole stack and not miss anything. Then you're ready to take my practice quiz. Now, when using my practice quiz, which remember, go to it from the lesson page. When you do the practice quiz, don't do the practice quiz right after you've studied. That's not going to tell you what is retained or what stays there. Work on something for another class. Go eat, go play, go do something for at least an hour. Don't look at your notes. After an hour or so, come back, take the practice quiz, and see what you're retaining, what you're remembering. And then it will point out areas that you may be missing. Now, what if on the practice quiz you didn't have a card? So that may be why you're missing it. Then you make a card. You take and make a card on any question on the practice quiz that you did not already have a card for. So there you'll cover all your bases. Now, when you take the quiz, if there's a question on the quiz that wasn't in your cards, make one to study for your test. That way you're covering every base. So is everybody signed up now that has a device? Good. Let's go and let's practice, and I'm going to put the PowerPoint up here. So let's go to the first information. Everybody look at your notes. What is the first thing you wrote down in your notes? Any of this? Shouldn't have. This is just telling you what's coming up. Okay? Angelise, tell me what the first thing you have written down. Good. Scientia means knowledge. So how did I tell you I would ask that as a question? Who remembers? Tiffany?
You said
Am I going to ask you for the Latin word? No. I'm going to ask you what the Latin word means. So, on your Quizlet or on your 3x5 cards, you're going to make your first card now. Put scientia means, and then put a little blank. Everybody do that on Quizlet. On your 3x5 cards. Scientia means, and then put a blank. Anybody having trouble, raise your hand, I'll come help you. Okay? All right, I think you have to create a set. That's how you start a new set, guys. Click Create a Set. Let's label it C0L1. Create a set. C0L1. And then you should have the option of making your first one. All right, so you can put it as the term, and then you can put your answer as the definition.
Put it up here or down
Oh, okay, right here. And choose a language. You have to choose a language, English. Do that. So has everybody created your first card? You should have 2 columns, or if you're using the app, I think it might show differently. And so in one column is going to be the front of your card. I usually just use the left side as the front, and then the right side as my answers. And you can do it backwards, because remember, you can always flip the cards and have them go in the opposite direction. All right, now we're ready to move on. So let's see. Did we write anything down from this slide? Yes, we wrote down both. Are we going to put this all on one card? Not. We're going to put it on 2 separate cards. So on one card, on the front, because remember I give you the definition, put the investigation and exploration of natural events and so forth. And then as the answer, put science. The only thing about Quizlet is when you flip them, you wouldn't know which science I was asking for. When you have a 3x5 card, you can tell you can distinguish between the 2. And then our third card, on the front, you're going to put the total collection of knowledge. And then on the back, put science. So everybody make those 2 cards. Fine, next we have, so how many cards do you think we should make from this slide? 2? 3? We've got definitions. We've got 2 here. Did actually you make 4, 5, or 6? You want to think of as many ways that I, as the teacher, could ask you a question on this material. So let's look at the first bit of information. What is one thing that I could ask? What's one thing? Marquise? Okay. Now, will I have you define life science? No. Remember, I give you the definition. So on the front, you want to put study of all living things. That is going to go on the front. As an answer, you're going to put biology or life science. Put both of them down. Put biology and then the word or, and then life science as the answer. What's some other question I could ask about that one little bit of information? Caleb?
What are the branches of science?
Yes, but we don't have them all yet, but excellent. We're going to have a listing question, the branches of science. And so we are going to make one called what are, or you could say list or name, some branches of science. But there's something else in this biology or life sciences study of all living things that I as a teacher could ask you. Life science can also be called blank. And what's the answer?
Biology.
Biology. So make a card. Because I could give you one or the other. I could give you biology, and you have to give me life science, or I could give you life science, and you have to give me biology. So you have to know that those two terms really are the same because it's the study of life. They both are the study of life. Now let's look at the word origin. How many cards would you make from in here?
1,
1, 3,
2,
2. All right, how many say 1? Okay, how many say 2? How many say 3? Any more higher than 3? The 2's got it. Here's why. I'm not going to ask you for the Greek word. Now, if I did ask you either way, you'd have 4 cards there. But I'm only going to give you the Greek word and you've got to tell me what it means. So make a card that says bios means blank. And we could just write bio, because it comes from biology. That's where we get the term biology. So bio means blank. And then on the answer we're going to put, what class? Life. On the next card, I would put the Greek word, where we get logic, logia, or however you say logia. But I would also say logia or ology. Put this on the front. Logia or ology means blank. And then on the back we're going to put study of. Then we're ready for our next card, where, as Caleb told us, we need to have a card for listing the branches of science. So let's make that card now. List some branches of science. And of course, one of those answers, biology or life science, whichever you want to put down. Next slide, we're going to get some more to add to the answers. Because remember, when you're doing this card, you've got to get all of them correct in order to count that as a right answer. You've got to get all of them. So let's move on to that. We already got that. Okay, so what's another branch of science? Anybody? Earth science, what you studied last year. So, 1 biology or 1 life science, 2 earth science, 3 physical science, 4 chemistry, 5 physics. Now, is that all of them? No. There's zoology, astronomy, all kinds of ones. Biochemistry. But that's all that we mentioned. So that's all you need to know, are those. Okay, next. We're not done with this slide, are we? No. We need to write down the information here. So, I want you to put on the front of one, the study of Earth. That kind of gives it away. That's a no-brainer, I would think. The study of Earth, including landforms, rocks, soil, forces that shape the Earth's surface. That's on the front. And then on the back, put earth science. Okay, let's look at that second bullet point. How many cards would you use, or how many questions for that second bullet point? The study of chemistry and physics is physical science. How many would you make? Ethan? Two. Excellent. So you make two. First of all, what would we put on the front? Come on, let's think. Carlos?
Physical science.
Okay. Yeah. Well, no, you have to know it the other way.
Oh, chemistry.
That's not enough. You're good. You're getting the right. Caleb?
The study of chemistry and physics.
Yes. Put the study of chemistry and physics on the front. That's like the definition. Then on the back, put physical science. Okay, Carlos, you were right. One of them should have physical science on the front, but that's not a question. Because if you say, what is physical science, then you're having to write the definition. But how do we make a question on the front that has physical science in the question? What two sciences or branches of science do you study in physical science? So then the answer is going to be two things. What is it going to be? Chemistry and physics. Now, I'm trying to help you to see, you've got to look at that info and see all the different ways that the teacher could ask you a question about it. Don't just look at definition term. There might be another way I ask it. And I might say, what branches of science make up physical science? And you would have to put chemistry and physics. And that's a different way of asking that question.